He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
This is The Alex Marlow Show. Thank you for being with me, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Seeing a lot of new subscribers check in. I appreciate that. Some big numbers going up. And we're working really hard. We want to make this the best show. Wherever you get your news, we want this to be your number one. So thanks for sending me an email, aloha@alexmarlow.com, if you want to correspond on anything. I had a really interesting weekend, and I will tell you, I completed a research project that you guys, when I announce this, and it will be coming up very soon, it will maybe be the biggest announcement I've ever had. It's that level, it's so big, and it's done. And I locked it in on Saturday, and I will tell you, do you know what I felt when I locked it in? I felt, okay, all right, fine. But you know what I felt really great about? I said, we had our last T-ball games, doubleheader, and Master Marlow hit a grand slam. Now, Master Marlow of my boys, he's the one who enjoys the T-ball less. Master Marlow Jr., he could be out there all day, and he hit his first triple. So really exciting. It's the youth sports, I'll tell you, it is fun. It is fun stuff. I had a lot of fun also hosting for Larry Kudlow on Saturday morning on his WABC show, one of the biggest radio stations on the planet, or at least in the country, so I imagine on the planet. And that was really nice. I had Carney on, I had Laura Trump on, I had Peter Schweitzer on. It was all in an hour. And I opened talking up a little bit about Nippon Steel, which is one thing I want to put on this audience's radar. Something going on with Trump is cutting a deal with Nippon Steel. And what I was explaining is this is the Japanese steel company that's been trying to buy U.S. steel, been trying to buy it for a while, and trying to buy it for, I think, about 18 months or so. We've been hearing that there's going to be an investment, but then maybe it's a partnership and maybe it's an acquisition. And investment is good. I just want to be clear about this. If anyone wants to come in and invest in U.S. steel, that sounds great. But, you know, they're also free to buy shares. If they really believe in it and they just think it's about money making, then they just buy shares. So why are they not buying shares? Why do they want to have a bigger partnership? And for me, it's clearly got to be about leverage, got to be about control, perhaps information. And that does strike me as a national security risk, because having U.S. steel being owned by a foreign company is just puts us at a vulnerable at wartime, an industry where during wartime is extra essential to the functionality of the country and perhaps our ability to fight these wars. And we can't have foreign ownership. And I'll tell you, I want to be clear on this. I trust Donald Trump to get done a deal that works out well for the Trump administration and perhaps a Vance or Rubio administration, whatever we could get next. But we got to guard against a potential Buttigieg administration or a potential Kamala Harris administration. And I don't trust them to do the necessary surveillance and monitoring necessary to have a foreign company own U.S. steel. So I think it's a big deal. And so we have not gotten the deal details. So Trump had an amazing rally on Friday, and I loved the rally, and he was in great spirits, and everyone loves him, and it's working class jobs and all that I love. But we've just got to do it in a way where it remains a U.S. company. Trump has said it's going to remain a U.S. company, but I want to put a marker on this because I want to, when I can be productive and I can say, wait a minute here, we got to be careful. I want to make sure that I'm doing that with my platform here at The Marlow Show and as editor-in-chief of Breitbart. So potentially a great thing, great investment, but also potentially a place where we could be vulnerable, and we got to be careful, a little bit careful on that. And so that's why I point out on the Kudlow Show, as well as breaking down my take on the Bidens, which continues to be a really intense story that's not really going very far. I have to admit, have you guys seen new stuff? Is there, I guess the thing that I'm interested in now is there's a fair bit of discussion about the auto pen. And given now that there's all this momentum to suggest that Biden was in mental decline, perhaps that he was not really functioning as the president. Maybe some of the stuff he signed with the auto pen is not legit. I kind of dig that. I think it's kind of trolly, and maybe it's a way to get something out of this absurd Tapper news cycle where he acted like no one knew that Biden was in mental decline when we all knew. It was obvious. Everyone understood it. But we had an exclusive story over the weekend at Breitbart that a pro-American energy watchdog is suggesting that the executive actions that were carried out with the auto pen were criminal, not to mention evil. They threw that in. But energy expert Daniel Turner from the Power the Future nonprofit released a big report suggesting that the 8 major actions taken with the auto pen were basically illegitimate. And so we'll be looking at that. I think it's a great way to pressure Biden, keep the pressure on, and keep the interest up in a way that could be productive, because it would be nice to have more accountability for the Biden administration. And that was always my concern when I wrote Breaking Biden, is that I didn't feel like there was a lot of accountability for the Bidens, that they were getting away with almost everything. Hunter is the best example. With all of his international deals, he never got any consequences for that whatsoever. And the only time he's ever held to account at all was for the gun charge, which was the one charge that had nothing to do with Joe Biden. It was not enabled by Joe Biden. It was the only one where Joe Biden was essentially getting off. Joe Biden was never going to be vulnerable for that. And I think that that's really interesting, that was the only one they busted Hunter on. They never busted James. They never busted Frank. All of them were involved with stuff that I suspect was probably illegal. And then Joe himself, I mean, even the fact that he had that Afghanistan debacle, no one even got fired for that. And so he just was able to go about his presidency as if he was a normal guy, not a evil, incompetent fool who was deteriorating mentally at a rapid rate. And so the whole point of this Tapper news cycle, those of you who missed my Friday show, please go back. I'm very proud of the show. I read Original Sin. I gave my review, which I think was the most important review you can get. It is all about essentially protecting the people who are going to be the next generation of Democrats and the current generation of powerful Democrats, in attacking the past generation of Democrats, because that gives Tapper this veneer of neutrality and objectivity, but really he's protecting access for his future self. And that's what this is about. It's about scapegoating the last generation of Democrats who do not wield any power. There really is an element of cowardice to it. I don't want to go quite that far, because even as weird of a guy as Tapper is, he is out there, and I don't want to, it takes a certain level of boldness to be able to just be out there with a book. And so, but there is an element of cowardice to only attack the people who are out of power and are not coming back. And that's all Tapper does. He didn't take any swings at anyone who's currently in power, and that's just noteworthy. That's what's going on. I have to say, I was playing back when I was prepping for the show today, going through some of my audio cuts. I was playing back some of those Biden clips from last week, and him suggesting that he is going to beat up Jake Tapper. I played this on the show on Friday, and I don't think I fully appreciate it. Check this out.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk, and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
I can beat the hell out of both of them. They're just so violent. They just harbor such unbelievable levels of violence, and they tell us that we're the violent ones. They're an absurd group of people. And that's why their polls are going down so much. We got a clip. Check this out. This is Democrat poll numbers. This is what's going on over the Democrat Party at the moment.
How Americans sort of see the parties. Which party is better described as the party with strong leaders? Look at this. Wow. 16% of Americans say Democrats, 40% say that of the Republican Party. Now,
so this is really important about just leadership qualities in a nutshell, in a vacuum. So they are without a leader. And that's what I'm saying, is that Republicans, it's like having, in terms of American politicians, I mean, we've got the first top 10 draft picks. I mean, you can go 10 deep on our bench, and they're all superior leaders, so to speak, in a traditional sense. Even if you don't agree with their take, they're all better leaders than the Democrats could put up, because everyone the Democrats could put up are very old, not charismatic, not smart, corrupt, all of that. They have just unbelievable amounts of baggage, and the Republicans don't. They're not compromised in the way the Democrats are, either with age or with scandal or with incompetence. And that's really important, because it is a golden opportunity. I keep emphasizing that this is our golden opportunity. We've never had it, the scales this out of balance with us in favor in terms of leadership. It's never been like this. And of course, we have a once in a millennia figure with Trump, at least once in a century at a minimum, maybe longer, in terms of his leadership skills. But, the people waiting in the wings are no slouches either. So look across the board, the cabinet secretaries who continue, and the White House personnel. So many of them brave people with vision, and Democrats have nothing of the sort, absolutely nothing of the sort. So noteworthy. This is a CNN report, by the way. So this is David Chalian talking to Manu Raju, those of you who are not watching.
Now, over overall, no party's doing great. Lots of Americans say neither of these qualities apply to either party, but look at how much worse off the Democrats are. A party that gets things done. Only 19% of Americans say that about the Democrats. 36% say it about the Republicans. In fact, the only place that the Democrats are numerically ahead, party of the middle class, this is basically a tie, though. Yeah. 34% say that of Democrats, 32% say that of Republicans. But this, I think, is the most fascinating. How do partisans talk about their own party? Right? So among Democrats and Democratic leaners, 32% say Democrats are the party with strong leaders. I mean, of their own kind, right? 82% of Republican leaders say that about the GOP.
Yeah, this is something that was really interesting. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I went to my wife's 20th reunion at high school. We went to the same high school, though, so we had a lot of overlap, peer group. And it was interesting to talk to all the people because most people are at least somewhat aware of what I do for work. It's been controversial, as you might imagine, for Beverly Hills Prep School to have one of their alumni as someone who helped Donald Trump get elected a couple times. And it is noteworthy how they seemed very sad and they were very curious about what it was like to have people who were winners on our side, because they know their side has no winners around. And that was one of the things that I think is subtext of the whole original sin conversation is the Democrats' frustration with their leadership, in just that they don't feel like they have anywhere to turn. And thus you get people, like George Clooney writing op-eds to get Biden out. And that's leadership in the party. Like they're turning to actors and stuff and turning to Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert. And it's just people who are not popular on a widespread level and are not authorities. And that's what they've got. And then we've got a whole bench filled with senators and cabinet secretaries and President Trump who are just ready to win.
Only 41% of Democrats say they're the party that gets things done of their own kind. And I will just say, 51%, Manu, a majority of Democratic and Democratic leaners say neither party gets the party that gets things done attribute. Imagine that's the project that Democrats are working on.
Yeah, and beyond the issues here, there's some structural problems with the Democrats.
So one thing that we're going to run out of tape here, but the party of change, Republicans see themselves as the party of change. And I think that that's true. What's amazing is that Donald Trump has been the focal point of American political life since 2015. So it's been 10 years. We've been in Donald Trump's America. That's a quarter of my life. And it is, half of my adulthood. And it's still, without a doubt, the outsider party is the Republican Party. And I think that branding is also precious. And I feel like that's something to really be maintained, because having that approach that we are not governed by a machine the way the Democrats were. And I think that this is something that became very clear with the revelation about Biden at the end, that it really was a machine that was running the presidency, which is exactly what I wrote in Breaking Biden, that Biden was really he was the watchmaker in a way, that he had designed the system over 50 years as much as any other person and was now benefiting from it, but he wasn't really working per se. He was taking naps on the beach in Delaware. But it really is that the Democrats are the machine, and because they are the machine, that provides that a classically American characteristic where we want to root for the underdog, the outsiders, for the come from behind victory. And so somehow we're way ahead, and we still have the branding and the ethos of the outsider, and that is to be absolutely cherished. Bill Clinton weighed in over the weekend for some reason. I mean, I don't know. I guess he was having fun. I don't know what he was doing, but he was getting interviewed in the Bidens. And check this out.
Speaking of aging, there's this book that came out that talks about Joe Biden and the people around him seeing that he had cognitive and physical decline. Did you ever have a moment with him where you thought maybe he was unfit to run for president? No.
I thought he was a good president.
So he says he didn't think Biden was unfit to run, but he's going to give away the game here. It's such a lie. Of course he knew that Biden was slow and would have bad days. That's the whole thing. But Bill Clinton lies effortlessly. Just remember, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. It's also interesting how Bill looks very creepy, and it's one of these things where when you get mired in sex scandals, it does feel like if you look creepy, it always becomes a part of your persona. But if you don't look creepy, you tend to get away with it. I got to expand on this theory down the road, but he does not benefit from it. He naturally looks like he's a sex pest. And it's just one of those things where it's just funny. And that is if he looked like, Henry Cavill, and I don't think people would have the same exact opinion of Bill Clinton. Like, he just looks like he's sort of eyeing this woman journalist who's interviewing him in a special way. I'll try to pause a screen cap if I can, but here we go. Let's keep going.
The only concern I thought he had to deal with was, could anybody do that job until they were 86? And we'd had several long talks. I had never seen him and walked away thinking he can't do this anymore. He was always on top of his brief.
You never saw any cognitive decline?
So I didn't know anything about any of this, and I haven't read the book. I saw President Biden not very long ago, and I thought he was in good shape. But the book didn't register with me because I never saw him that way.
Why didn't you read the book?
I didn't want to, because he's not president anymore, and I think he did a good job, and I think we are facing challenges today without precedent in our history. And some people are trying to use this as a way to blame him for the fact that Trump was reelected.
That's it. We got it. That's it. That's what I wanted. It was worth the wait. I'll do the last 10 seconds for you guys again.
Facing challenges today without precedent in our history.
This is the big moment.
And some people are trying to use this as a way to blame him for the fact that Trump was reelected.
That's it. He's right. He's a smart guy. You don't even need to read the book. I read the book and then confirmed it, but that's what it is. It's about scapegoating, and that's what it is. And all the power structure is not upending any major power structure that has any sway in Democrat politics at the moment. It is just pointing the finger at people who are completely out of power right now. So anyway, more detail on that on Friday's show, and also my raising of suspicions after Michelle Obama belittling childbirth. That was unbelievable. If you missed that, I had a big breakdown of Michelle Obama saying that birthing children is the least of what people do if you're a woman. Reproductive system, the least of what a woman's body does in the reproductive system is produce life. I'm telling you, if you are trying to convince people you don't have a penis, then you would not say that stuff. I'm just saying. So there's just something going on there with Michelle, with all the rumors. We got to get Candace on this. She's obsessed with Brigitte Macron being a man. I need to see the deep dive on Michelle O. Michelle O's opened the floodgates. I was never buying into it until she's saying that the least of what a woman does is give birth. Like, what? Who says that sort of thing? Someone who's got deep issues with gender. So many of the Democrats have deep issues with gender. We're in Pride Month, and it's just going to be a bonanza of content. I really look forward to this because we're in power now and we've got the momentum, we on the right. And it just, the more this stuff is frustrating when we're out of power, and it feels like the left is making progress with the culture. But we know this is all cringy pandering at this point, and it hurts people. But pro sports going all in on Pride Month. I was looking at the New York Mets with the trans logo, LGBTQ+. WNBA has got big Pride Month stuff going on as always. That doesn't surprise you. Even Major League Baseball. Why is Major League Baseball? It's like a pure meritocracy if there ever was one. And you got the trans flag up. But just keep an eye out, because it reveals to you who runs these organizations when you see the trans groomer flag showing up. But it is all over pro sports. Dylan Quinn's did a nice job compiling all that for us at Breitbart. But it's exasperating. But also now I know the truth. We know the truth, which is that the public is not really into this. And I think that you're just exposing yourself as someone who has a bunch of woke, out of touch people at the top of your companies when you do this stuff. So just resist it. If you work at a company and you have to politely hold your hand up and say, we should not be doing the trans stuff. We should not be doing the pride stuff. We don't need to be encouraging degeneracy. We don't need to be encouraging autogynephilia, where you get turned on by dressing as the opposite sex or any of that stuff. You've got to stop it. You've got to put your foot down, because it's not just these businesses of adults. It's other stuff. Girls track and field athletes, are now refusing to stand next to podiums on trans. This is happening, I think, throughout the country. We're seeing this more and more. And I love this. The Reese Eckerd of Sherwood High School and Alexa Anderson of Tigard High School stepped down from their positions on the podium when a trans competitor from Ida B. Wells High School. Where is this? I'm trying to look this up really fast for you guys. Where is this? I'm looking at a Fox News article. I wish someone would point out where. Oregon, state of Oregon. Well done, ladies. Thank you for doing this. You're to be commended, and everyone should emulate this. It is not worth it. It is not worth it to indulge this nonsense, and you can take your medal and do what you will with it. But girls should not be asked to compete against men. And also, what they're trying to do out in California, trying to segregate, have a special trans league. Does that become the Special Olympics at that point, where you've got, mentally incapacitated people who are mental health issues, like they're all have their own special race? Is that better? Weird moment we're in. I think we're going to come through it, but we can only do it with brave people like these girls and others like them. Sesame Street celebrating Pride Month. This is the whole point. This is where this is all going. So on our streets, everyone is welcome, and they make sort of a groomer flag with Sesame Street characters with trans stuff, and they want to trans the kids. That is grooming. So everyone in Sesame Street is always welcome on Sesame Street. Let's celebrate LGBTQIA plus people in our communities this Pride and every day. I have no interest as a father. I have no interest as a father in trying to explain the trans stuff to my children. I just don't. I don't want this as a part of my life yet. And there is no reason that I should have to do this, because it is, if there are a handful of people in the country that legitimately are trans, then I've yet to hear about them. I really, and they're adults. They're not kids. All of these, it is completely destroying communities, and you can thank places like Sesame Street for doing it. It really is infuriating, to be honest with you. The first one, I'm kind of worked up about it. We're not a Sesame Street house anymore, partially because of the woke stuff, but it's just relentless. And even Disney doesn't do this anymore, do they? Is Disney doing any more trans stuff? You to let me know. aloha@alexmarlow.com if they are. All right, some serious stuff to get into. Anti-Semitic terror in Boulder, Colorado, but also, and this is an illegal alien. Bill Malugin from Fox, his amazing reporting, had to jump on this. 3 senior Department of Homeland Security sources breaking to him that the suspect was in a visa overstay and had overstayed their visa that Biden had given them in 2022, and then was authorized to stay through a work permit through 2023, and then never left. So this is one thing that is very important to talk about with regards to illegal immigration. Is that illegal immigration is not merely about people crossing the border and people bringing fentanyl across the border and poor brown people coming through the border, and that's a small part of it. It's a big part of it, but it's not the only part of it. Just as many illegal aliens, I think it's about the same numbers, I believe, are visa overstays, are people who came in legally and through a visa program and then never left, and they have no right to be here. We need to have a zero tolerance policy for this stuff, because every time there's a crime that is committed by a guest in our country, then that is an American who's suffering or dying because we were too irresponsible to enforce our own laws. So the Democrats are not a party of law and order. They do not value law and order. It creates too much order. They like chaos, and they thrive in the chaotic environment. It's that simple. So they don't want to enforce these laws. And when they don't enforce them, inevitably, some of the people are going to get radicalized. They're not going to assimilate. And some of them are going to be, whether it's online or whether it's in their communities that they're in, they're going to get radicalized, they're going to go crazy, and they're going to kill some people. And so that should never be acceptable. Every single one of these injuries or deaths should be intolerable to Americans. And to have someone overstay multiple opportunities to be a guest in this country, admitted under Joe Biden, and then commit acts of terror in this country, not okay. So it is, and Colorado, this is the interior of the country. It's not a border state issue. Illegal immigration affects every state in the union. Very important to note this. We'll give you updates at Breitbart.com, but just to state the obvious point, every single one of these illegal alien crimes is unacceptable. Also noteworthy, he had a Free Palestine thing he was doing. It's another obvious point that needs to be reinforced is who are we freeing Palestine from? Hamas, right? Hamas runs Palestine or the Palestinian territories. So it is, Hamas continues to be a problem, and they're not helpful. And it is something where I find that there are corners of the internet that are just far too tolerant of Hamas because they just don't like Israel and they don't like the Jews, and that's it. So they find that any alternative to them is acceptable, and that really is what it's all about. And that's why you see people who feel like opposition to that it becomes inevitable that people have given enough time on the internet and are not pro-Israel. Just feels like they eventually end up to the justifying of this stuff. And I don't want that to be the case. There's a lot of smart, thoughtful people who can debate this issue very well, but it's too common where you see people start off with, oh, I'm not skeptical of Israel, and they end up with indulging Hamas and Hamas terrorism. So very important to note that we continue to see lies and smears about Israel, the state of Israel, the one Jewish state on earth, which for some reason is tolerable for people to have a adjoining territory where the leadership believes that they should exist from the river to the sea, meaning we're going to wipe Israel off the map. New York Times, CNN, the AP, all were tracking stories on Gaza where they falsely reported that Israeli soldiers killed Palestinian citizens at an American aid site in Gaza. So all of these, New York Times, CNN, the AP, all being forced to retract stories. Ambassador Mike Huckabee was the one who I think was pressuring them to do this. So good for him. And we're going to have a big event with him at Breitbart coming up. So we love Ambassador Huckabee, and he is a terrific guy. And we just a guy with great moral clarity, and a good person, funny guy, talented guy. And this is something that continues to be the pattern that we've seen, is that the intransigence of Hamas is amplified by the fake news media. I will say, we don't just love Ambassador Huckabee. We love Priority Gold. I have terrific partners in the gold game, Priority Gold. There's a lot of partners that are, you guys know, if you listen to talk radio, you're gold advertisements. But I will tell you, if you guys bought gold when I started recommending gold, you would have made 25% on the dollar right now. And the folks over Priority Gold, you go to prioritygold.com/freedom, or you text the word freedom to 24999. They will help you make money. They will help you hedge against the wild economy. It's all this talk of, are Trump's tariffs going to hold? Are they on? Are they off? It is. We don't know what's happening with the big, beautiful bill. The one thing we know for sure is that over time gold goes up. It's a guarantee. You can take that to the bank, literally. But knowing what to do, how to invest in it, how much to buy, what's the right program for you, they will help you do that. They've got a free gold guide that you can get, but they will also get on the phone with you and they will help you out. Get what you need: gold IRA, gold 401k, all the information you need. You go to prioritygold.com/freedom, or you text the word freedom to 24999. They will help you out. And I will tell you, if you're on the fence, they're terrific sponsors of this program, and that's a big deal. It means a lot. It means a lot to me. They've helped this show get off the ground, and why not help people doing good things who are can help you out as well. Okay, in more international news, a nationalist conservative, I'm going to botch these names. I had it down earlier. I actually practiced before the show. Karol Nawrocki, I think is how we're pronouncing it, of Poland. A stunning come-from-behind victory in the Polish presidential election on Sunday, defeating a neoliberal Warsaw mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski. I don't know. It's terrible. It's just so horrible. I feel embarrassed for myself and for all of you. But anyway, the point is that this is a massive come-from-behind victory. So Poland is traditionally one of the countries in Europe more nationalist and better to deal with than typical your average European country, but they had slipped towards globalism. Donald Tusk was the previous leader, and what a huge EU guy and someone who is a arch globalist if there ever was one. But this was a major upset because the candidate was behind the conservative candidate, Nawrocki, was behind 20 points at one point. And then something magical happened. Went to the United States, met with Donald Trump in the White House, and vowed to be a strong ally of the United States of America. So this is not just the nationalists winning in an abstract sense. This is not Pierre Poilievre saying that that we don't like Trudeau, but we're also kind of iffy on Trump. No, this is a guy who went all in on Trump and then won the race, probably because of it. He really differentiated himself from the far left in a debate. This is so epic. is that during a debate, he took the LGBT flag and put it on the podium in front of the liberal candidate and said, "You're representing these values more than Polish values." It was a big viral moment. We covered this a bit in my Breitbart Fight Club interview with Kurt Sandolka from our London bureau today, if you want more detail. But it is so epic. So Breitbart Premium subscribers, you guys get all this great content that I create every day. But it was a crazy campaign and a lot of mud being flung. But overall, the Trump of it all was what delivered the election for Poland. So this is going to have major ramifications. It's going to shut down the liberal agenda that Tusk had in place. And Poland was moving closer towards Brussels, towards that globalist superstate sphere. And now we are just racking up in Central to Eastern Europe some major victories with Andrej Babis in the Czech Republic, Viktor Orban in Hungary, of course, Giorgia Meloni in Italy. This is going to create a lot of momentum to shut down some of the illegal immigration there. And we're rooting for Europe here, in at least in the Marlowe Show and a Breitbart. We want Europe to thrive, but not if they're going to do this globalist, secular nonsense they've been doing for the last half century. So it feels like we're on the comeback here. This also could be a blow to NATO, which is good. I'm very skeptical of NATO because NATO is, I think, the most likely. If we have a World War III, it's going to be because of NATO. So this is kind of where we are on that. I'll give you an update on the Russian war. Russia has struck a Ukraine training unit, leaving at least 12 dead, 60 injured over the weekend. A lot of back and forth on the Russia front, and a Ukrainian targeted drone attack hitting drones and took out a Russian nuclear strategic bomber fleet. And this is all these bombers that we're not sure why they were such easy targets, but they were, and Ukraine took those out. So Russia also picked up some new territory, but that war is just dragging on. It is not going to stop anytime soon, perhaps for years. You can blame China for this in a lot of ways, propping up Russia. Ukraine also fighting back with some strategic moves. So it's bad. It's bad what's going on over there. And I'm not happy to report the news coming out of Russia in Ukraine, but we'll continue to give you updates at Breitbart. All right, a couple other items that I wanted to bring up for you on the broadcast today. Jerry Nadler had a staff member arrested by the Department of Homeland Security. And he was on TV, and I will tell you that federal officers from the Department of Homeland Security went into his district office in New York and handcuffed and detained one of his aides. And Nadler was, out defending him. And it's just funny because anytime you're dragging out Nadler, we're winning on the right. So I don't know exactly the nature of it, but it was over immigration stuff. And partly, this is Nadler quoting, DHS was upset that some of my staff members were watching them grab an immigrant emerging from an immigration court in the same building. So I guess this is over them trying to have a immigration arrest because he was harboring rioters is what was alleged by Department of Homeland Security. So, and thus was detained. So I'm really interested to see if the Democrats keep freaking out in this way, where they feel like, well, Trump's trying to deport people and we can't let that happen. So we're going to harbor rioters. We're going to harbor criminals. And we're going to do this just because if Trump did it, it must be wrong. This is, as Peter Schweitzer puts it, Trump's superpower. They keep doing this, where they keep getting Democrats to take positions that no one likes. Bill Maher had a very good line in his show where he said he praised Trump for cracking down on Harvard, calling it, and forgive my speech on this, those of you with family, but got to do it. He called it an asshole factory. And I do think that is the majority opinion of Harvard in this country. And I think a lot of us look up to people from Harvard in some ways. And if you cite our intellectual heroes, inevitably you're going to come across people with some Harvard degrees. But overall, I think that is the consensus at this point. We're fed up with our elites. We think that they're fat and happy and overpaid, not helping us. And I really do think that overall, their elites, our elites as a country, have failed us. And I feel like that Trump getting people, Rage Against the Machine rockers or whatever, to defend Harvard is a trick. I think it's a trick that really works out for Trump, because we are not in a mode right now where we're supporting Harvard. We are in a mode right now where we are I think doing our absolute best to reset the priorities of the global elite who have gotten us into this position where they're rich and comfortable and we're struggling in a lot of ways. And we think that they're overpaid to do too little while the whole country is going broke. And I think you can point a lot of fingers at Harvard over that. And Trump convincing all the left that they need to support it is one of the amazing things he's done. I will say also that the egg prices are down big. So egg prices are down big. And it's just another one of these ones where Trump just exposed Democrats so bad. They were just so knee-jerk when it came to their insistence that egg prices weren't going to come down, that Trump needed to lower egg prices the day he got into office. And now they're down 61% since Trump took office. Scott Bessent did an interview with Margaret Brennan, and Margaret Brennan's got this amazing TV personality in the sense that she can humiliate herself and subject herself to public humiliation on a routine basis. And she just has this ability to just go on as if nothing happened. And I some of this is just surreal, but Scott Bessent is the consummate professor. He's always educating dumb people. And you guys are going to have to see this to believe it. But I pulled some clips for you. Let's check this out.
One of the reasons I'm sitting here talking to you today and not at home watching your show is that I was concerned about the level of debt. So the deficit this year is going to be lower than the deficit last year. And in 2 years, it will be lower again. We are going to bring the deficit down slowly. We didn't get here in 1 year. We didn't get here in 1 year, and this has been a long process. So the goal is to bring it down over the next 4 years, leave the country in great shape in 2028.
Okay, very good. And that's a great plan. And it's nice where he articulates it because it always sounds like it's going to work and he's right about a lot of stuff. So it's really nice. I always like to play Bessent because he's one of the few guys in the White House. Him and Stephen Miller were are probably the ones where I feel like if they're explaining it, it's probably better than I could explain it, or at least as good. And everyone else, sometimes I feel like I have to translate it back to you. JD is good about this. Rubio's good, but it's nice. I sometimes feel like in talk radio, traditionally as a conservative talk show host, is I listen to the Republican politician and then I explain to you what they really meant and why it's a good argument. And then not with Bessent, not with Miller. There's a couple of guys now in the Trump administration where I really do feel like they're explaining to me what's going on. So that's very cool. So let's hear some more.
I don't think it's intentional. I think that what Secretary Hegseth did was remind everyone that during COVID, China was an unreliable partner. And what we are trying to do is to de-risk. We do not want to decouple, Margaret, but we do need to de-risk, as we saw during COVID, whether it was with semiconductors, medicines, the other products. We are in the process of de-risking.
So this is in response to talking about the China rhetoric, how it's intensified. I, of course, wanted to decouple from China. I think it's really important. And if you guys see the distinction here between decoupling and de-risking, please feel free to weigh in. You guys have been sending me amazing emails. I do want to dedicate some time to the show reading them. But some of them, you raise great issues. And I got to do some homework. And I can't just bring them to the air without thinking about them. But please keep emailing me, aloha@alexmarlowe.com. We'll do some emails this week. But the Bessent here is saying that we want to de-risk. That's an automatic. I feel like if China's watching and he pays attention to Chinese media, which we will hear about in a second, as we do at Breitbart, they don't like the decoupling expression. I think de-risking maybe he feels like is better messaging. But, I wanted to decouple. So that's where I'm at on this.
Making the United States less reliant on China. But at the same time.
And the whole world. The whole world, because what China is doing is they are holding back products that are essential for the industrial supply chains of India, of Europe, and that is not what a reliable partner does.
Yeah, it's good points. All right, that's good points. What are you supposed to do? This is my favorite clip of it all. And again, he just has great clarity, but this is where they get a little bit of a debate. This is the spiciest one. You'll like this.
We wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right. But you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
But Margaret, I also know what Home Depot and Amazon are saying. I know what what the South China Morning Post wrote within the past 24 hours, that 65% of the tariffs will likely be eaten by the Chinese producers.
The reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
When we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
This is the exact same thing with the egg prices. We were told the egg prices are not coming down. Now they're down 61%. And the media could have told you the egg prices were going to come down. Because remember, they didn't just drop because Trump is a bad guy or because they're uncontrollable. The egg prices went up because of a bird flu, an avian flu, and it was just a matter of time before the birds regenerated and we were able to recreate the same amount of eggs as we had in the past. It's going to drop the prices. And the Democrats could have stopped stepping on rakes, but they keep stepping on rakes. They will not stop doing it. And the same thing where they go out there, they keep announcing the tariffs are going to cause major inflation, and inflation is at the best level it's been in 4 years. And it's one of these things where I used to fault conservatives, particularly powerful conservatives, for going on shows like this. But now when it's just a dunkathon all the time. Scott Bessent has so many arguments that Margaret Brennan has no idea how to have any retort to this. Did they not brief her on this? Was she not aware for this, prepared for this talking point? And it's just so nice when he gets to school her the way a professor would school a petulant child. It's just such a blast to watch, and he's just the absolute best. And we were so happy we championed him at Breitbart. I got one more. Let's see where this goes.
The reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
When we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
It was the same clip, but producer Harry, I guess, cut that for me. Missy's on vacation this week. I hope she's having a great time. But Harry gave me that little bonus just because that is the best part. That was the best part of the interview, worth the whole thing, and just absolute mic drop moment from one of the best in the cabinet. Last one that was on my list for now is Disney's Lilo and Stitch star Tia Carrera celebrates her daughter coming out as trans. It's really interesting that these Hollywood stars just keep trying to ruin their legacies with the woke stuff. And why can't you just keep this stuff private? Why do you have to be excited about it? At least the daughter's an adult, but 19, it's so young. Tia Carrera, of course, for me, is always going to be from Wayne's World. That is where she was the love interest of Wayne Campbell, Wayne's World. I'm sure for a lot of you, if you're too young for Wayne's World, you guys got to check that out, because there was a time where comedies were fun, where you could actually do, comedy wasn't just a social media thing where you could go to a movie and you could see a comedy and it was funny and it was edgy, and real stars would make them, and it wasn't just an act of extreme bravery, and the woke scolds weren't shutting it all down. So anyway, so definitely one to check out if you haven't seen Wayne's World in a while. But why do we have to do the pride thing? Why do we act like it's a celebration? That this is mental illness and it should not be celebrated. We should have compassion in some ways, but to celebrate it just encourages more families to get ruined by the trans contagion. And we've got to shut that down. It's got to stop immediately. And we've got to start holding these people accountable. It's a sad also because it's like Lilo and Stitch. Like, we love Lilo and Stitch at Breitbart. Or not necessarily Breitbart. I won't speak for the whole company, but I will say in the Marlowe household, Lilo and Stitch is so fun. It's got aliens. It's got Elvis. It's got Hawaii. And it should not work. It's too crazy, but it does work. It's fun. It's all about family. And I kind of want to go see this movie. And then so now I got to, what I'll be talking about when I go into the theater? I'll be explaining to Mrs. Dr. Marlowe that Tia Carrera, and she'll say, from Wayne's World? And I'll say, yep. Say, yeah, she's got a daughter who's trying to become a dude, and she's celebrating it. And then she will be upset and it will be annoying. And that will be the conversation. And does she like that that's how normal families are going to talk about her stuff? Apparently so. That is it. That is the nature of the trans agenda. And it just, people have got to get out of their bubbles for their own sake. Trust me on this. All right. That's the Marlowe Show for today. Thanks again to Harry, and producer Marcus is helping out today. And all of you in the audience, keep hitting me with those emails, aloha@alexmarlowe.com. It's going to be a big news week. Senate's back. So we should get some big, beautiful bill updates. So a lot to come at Breitbart.com as well. That's it. See you tomorrow.
He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlowe. And this is The Alex Marlowe Show.